Well, guys, despite a great effort last night, the Ottawa Senators end up falling to the Winnipeg Jets 4-3 in overtime. And for me, this was just one of those games that almost felt like the Ottawa Senators beat themselves. And over the past few years, I don't think it's too common for us to be able to say that. As the Sens were usually just always the inferior competition. And not that I'm taking anything away from the Winnipeg Jets, they obviously have a lot of speed and skill themselves. But I do think the Ottawa Senators really outplayed them yesterday, and the Sens are much improved now, and they really showed that last night. Right off the first opening face-off, the Winnipeg Jets actually were the team with the greatest chance as the puck kind of squirted loose, and again, Josh Brown kind of makes a defensive miscue, and it's the puck shot right on goal. It's a big save by Matt Murray, but after that, the Ottawa Senators had all the play in the Winnipeg end. They dominated the Jets. They were getting lots of shots. I think they had like 6 shots in the first like 4 minutes or something. And then that ultimately led to a power play. It ultimately led to Josh Norris's first NHL goal. That goal is assisted by Evgeny Dadonov and Drake Batherson. Dadonov, his first point as an Ottawa Senator. And the Sens are looking really good early on. They were just buzzing around the Winnipeg net. They deserved that power play. They deserved that goal. And despite it being a lucky goal for Josh Norris at going off a Winnipeg player in front, I think he's going to get a lot of goals that are way prettier than that going forward, first of all. And second of all, I think he deserves a goal like that just because of the fact that he's a guy who's been pretty noticeable through these first 2 games, and he's a pretty smooth skating guy, and he works hard, and like I said, he really deserved that goal. And the Sens wouldn't stop there as they would keep pouring it on. At 10:31 into the first period, Chris Tierney would score to make it 2-0 Ottawa, assisted by Connor Brown and Nikita Zaitsev. I just want to point out that Nikita Zaitsev actually leads the Sens in points, by the way. He has 4 assists, 0 goals, 4 assists for 4 points. That leads the team. And things were looking good for the Ottawa Senators. It was the perfect period. They were out shooting the Jets. They were all over them. They dominated possession. And this was one of the best periods I have ever seen Ottawa play. Forget just this season, but ever in the 8 years I've been an Ottawa Senators fan. But the Jets had to put a blemish on what was a really good period for Ottawa, as Adam Lowry would tip home a Neil Pionk point shot. And to cut the lead in half, Mason Appleton gets the secondary assist on that one. He won the draw back, I believe. Pionk gets the shot. It was what I would kind of like to see Murray have, but I don't know. I mean, it was kind of deflected there. It was a good tip by Lowry, I guess. And it's 2-1 Ottawa going into the first intermission, I should say. And, I mean, the message has got to be, just keep going, doing what you're doing for the Sens, because even though they gave back a goal to Winnipeg, they still had a lot of good things going for them in that first period, so the message had to be to keep just doing the same things you were doing in that first. And the Sens would pretty much pick up where they were left off in the second, again dominating possession. I just couldn't believe how mature this young team looked for large stretches of this game against a pretty good Winnipeg team too. Even though the Jets don't really defend all that well, they do have a lot of skill, and there was a lot of times their top guys were hemmed in by the Sens' young players that were controlling the puck and not letting Winnipeg's top guys have it. Ultimately, again, that would lead to a power play. Alex Galchenyuk at 11:47 into the second period would score his first as an Ottawa Senator. I want to point out that I thought Galchenyuk had a really good game tonight. I thought he was pretty noticeable. I thought DJ Smith should have got him out there more. We'll get to that later on. That goal was assisted by Mike Riley and Derek Stepan. So Riley picks up a point, Stepan picks up his first assist, and it's 3-1 Ottawa. Things are looking good. And for me in this game, it almost felt like the Sens kind of let Winnipeg off the hook. It almost like they were trying to get the Jets back in the game because the Sens were just totally outplaying them. They were doing everything they could to win a game, but at the same time, they were doing everything they could, almost it felt like, to let Winnipeg back in, if you know what I mean, by just taking a lot of lazy stick penalties, not really moving their feet, just kind of like letting the Jets off the hook, like I said earlier. And then that would Winnipeg would get a fourth power play of the game. Kyle Connor, 16-12 into the second period, would score his third of the season, assisted by Blake Wheeler and Mark Scheifele. Those guys eventually connect. Winnipeg, they're a very skilled team. I don't care if they've kind of looked a bit faulty at times this year. You still don't want to give a team that skilled that many power plays. They connect on it. They're 1 for 4 at that point. Ottawa did have a good night on the penalty kill, 1 for 5 ultimately, but still the Jets come through with a power play goal. that would be it for the second period. The Sens are in front 3-2, should be in front a lot more, but it's only 3-2, and there's still 20 minutes to go. And for most of the third period, I thought the Sens looked really strong again. Maybe not quite as dominating as they were through the first two periods, but I thought they still played a pretty strong defensive game. And then in the final 5 minutes, they just started turning pucks over, throwing pucks away, just kind of giving it back to the Jets, just not doing what made them successful in those first, 55 minutes of the game. And Winnipeg would eventually pull the goalie. Josh Morrissey would score to tie the game up at 3. With a minute 17 left in the third period. That was pretty tough to see. I mean, not as tough as, say, if there was like 20 seconds left or so, but I could kind of see that one coming. That one was assisted by Blake Wheeler, Mark Scheifele. I believe that was Blake Wheeler's 500th career assist, and of course he has to get it against the Sens. But with that being said, I didn't like how the Sens were defending that 6-on-5. I thought they were just, there was this play where like Scheifele kept having the puck and like they were giving him the free shot there. And I know he was not at a great angle, but still Scheifele's a pretty good player. And if you're going to give him that kind of space, he could have just sniped it on his own past Matt Murray. He didn't, but still, I mean, like I said, I didn't like the way the Sens were defending that 6-on-5. They do ultimately get it to the point, and they just looked really shaky in that final 5 minutes despite having a really strong 55 minutes of the whole game to that point. So then we go to the first overtime game of the season for the Ottawa Senators. Their game is tied up at 3. All I could think in my head is, despite having a shaky final 5 minutes, I mean, wow, Winnipeg to even get a point kind of stole the Sens lunch money. And the Sens kind of almost gave them that point, gift wrapped it. I mean, they were just all over them all night long. And that really hurt to even see this game go into overtime. And it would hurt even more because Nikolai Ehlers, 2 minutes and 20 seconds into overtime, would score, assisted by Andrew Kopp and Josh Morrissey. Morrissey with a goal and an assist in this game. And the Sens really get their lunch money stolen by Winnipeg in this one. Laurent Brossoit was the starter. It was just pretty upsetting to see, for sure, with Ottawa playing so well for large stretches of this game, and they only come out with a point. One thing I do want to mention, though, is DJ Smith. And I know I've been accused, someone accused me about a week or so ago of hating this guy. I don't hate him. Like, I'm not really like, oh, fire DJ Smith. I'm not on that train at all. I think very few Sens fans are. He is a good coach, but he makes a lot of questionable personnel decisions. Like, he had the wrong Russian out there in overtime. Instead of Anisimov, he should have had Galchenyuk out there in overtime. I thought he played a great game. Galchenyuk did. He's a way better skater than Anisimov, a lot quicker. He's got more skill than Anisimov, and it's just, they're too defensive, I find, Ottawa at times. And he puts some players out there in offensive situations that probably shouldn't be out there in offensive situations, and the guys that should be out there in offensive situations are on the bench sometimes, some of those guys. And it's just really frustrating to watch, for sure. And I could really see that 3-on-3 overtime goal coming for Winnipeg as soon as Ottawa had two guys go to one. And if you're going to double team a guy in 3-on-3 overtime, you better be absolutely 110% sure you can get the puck back right away. Because if you're not, I mean, this is what happens. It looked like first Anisimov was going to forecheck Morrissey, then he kind of backed off a bit. Then Batherson came in to forecheck him. That was the wrong read. He should have peeled back. Morrissey makes a nice long stretch pass for a 2-on-1. Andrew Kopp, like I said, he finds Ehlers. It's in the back of a net. Anisimov almost got there to break up the pass, but again, just not quick enough. Can't keep up with the speedy Nikolai Ehlers. He is a very fast player, but Anisimov is not a very fast player either, with that being said. So there were a couple of young mistakes by the Sens. DJ Smith said so. We made some young mistakes in the final 5 minutes of the period, the third period and overtime. But ultimately, I mean, they played a really good game. I guess, if there's such a thing as a moral victory, I mean, this would be it, even though they didn't get the full 2 points. But man, I really feel the Sens beat themselves tonight, or last night, like I said earlier on in the video. But I think of this game, it was really encouraging despite the Sens losing and looking pretty young, I guess, in that final 5 minutes of the third period and overtime. They made a few mistakes. but they did look really good out there, so that's very encouraging. They dominated possession. I thought the Tkachuk, Norris, Batherson line was back. They weren't trying to dilly-dally with the puck at the blue line like they did Saturday night against Toronto. They dumped it in when they didn't have a play, and they got forechecking. They made life hard for Winnipeg. If they play like that, they probably won't dominate against every team, because there are some really good teams and the Sens are still really young, but they're going to give themselves a much better chance to win. And if they play like that more often than not, I would say about at least 80% or so of the time they are going to win. But guys, thank you so much for watching. Please like and subscribe and share this video. And I'll talk to you guys again soon. And I'll see you Thursday probably against Winnipeg again.